There's a famous American author. Her name is Rachel Hollis. And she wrote some very famous books called Girl, Wash Your Face and Girl, Stop Apologizing and other books. Millions of copies sold. And I was interviewing her recently, and she said to me something profound. She said, most people don't fear failure. What they fear is having other people see them fail. And I thought that was very insightful. Because you are the best salesperson does not qualify you to be the leader of 12 salespeople for lots of reasons. If you are a great salesperson, you probably are highly competitive. You have your own style and personality. You like the limelight. You want to win. Those are great competencies for a salesperson. Those are horrible competencies for a sales leader.
One thing no one knows about you.
I'm a stutterer. I have a very pronounced stutter. And I've had braces 3 times. I'm in Invisalign, speech therapy. I have a speech coach. I have a debilitating stutter, and I've spent most of my life overcoming it.
Wow, no one can make out. Hello, fellows. Welcome to the next episode of Jagged with Jasravee. Conversations at the edge with thought leaders from the marketing, branding, and the business world. Hi, Scott. So nice to have you on my show.
Oh, what an honor. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for the spotlight on me.
Okay. So, Scott, if I requested you to tweet your profile, what would you say?
Well, so I'm 53 years old. I live in America, in Salt Lake City, with my wife and our 3 young sons. I was a chief marketing officer of a global leadership development company called Franklin Covey. I am a 4-time best-selling author. I host the world's largest weekly leadership podcast. And I'm delighted to be here. This is a very unique podcast, and I like your style and your questions. So I'm excited for the conversation.
Awesome. Okay. So, there are 2 areas we're going to talk about. And honestly, both were personally very intriguing for me because, this is like typically one of the things, people talk about when they talk about their career or their journey, and you have made that as the focus. And it is a very interesting, transformed way, a very evolved way to look at one's messes. So, I'll quote a few lines that really resonated with me. So Scott here says, go ahead and own your messes because they are the byproduct of you in motion, living, growing, taking risks, setting goals, stepping outside your comfort zone and making a mark in the world. And conversely, the only formula for avoiding messes is to do nothing. Isn't that lovely and so reassuring?
Well, I'm delighted you liked that passage. That is the premise of most of my leadership and my career, is all of us have messes in our life, personal life and our professional life, and most people know what they are. In fact, most people are talking about them. So why not just own your mess, whether it is a leadership mess or a marketing mess or a sales mess or entrepreneurial mess. And when you own your mess, you make it safe for others to own theirs and talk about them. You make it safe to teach through your mistakes and your problems. I learn more from people who've had bankruptcies than I learned from people who've made $1 million. I learn more about how to keep my marriage growing from people who've had divorces than I have from people who have stayed married. So I generally tend to like to learn about people's mistakes so that I can avoid them. Because in most cases, I don't have your talent, your personality, your education, your genius. It's hard for me to replicate your successes. I have my own skills, my own talents, my own fears, but I can't avoid the mistakes that you've made. And sometimes, if you can just avoid the big mistakes in life, you can make major progress. So most of my books are named From Mess to Success, whether it's marketing, management, careers, or communication. And I'm a big advocate of teaching through your mistakes so others can learn from them.
Yeah, wow. Okay, we'll come to that later. So messes in marketing. So when you're talking so passionately about it, it's so nice because, you just feel like, it's okay, keep going. It's okay, keep going. Like just get up. What would you say is the most important quality? Like, why is it that some people have this outlook, Scott, that it's a mess? I'll learn from it. I'll be wiser from it. And next time I only do better, and sometimes even talk about it and help others. And some just get stuck or start blaming
Yeah. There's a famous American author. Her name is Rachel Hollis. And she wrote some very famous books called Girl, Wash Your Face and Girl, Stop Apologizing and other books. Millions of copies sold. And I was interviewing her recently, and she said to me something profound. She said, most people don't fear failure. What they fear is having other people see them fail. And I thought that was very insightful. As it relates to your question, I think that in my life, I don't see making mistakes as a failure. I see them genuinely as learning opportunities. Well, that didn't work, but I'm proud of taking that risk, or I tried that and that didn't work out for me, so I'm going to try something else. I mean, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I think a lot of people don't possess the confidence in themselves or the humility to let other people see them fail. I mean, I hosted a radio program for a year on the radio. It didn't succeed. I've had some books that have become #1 instant bestsellers and others that only sold 63 copies the first week. Like, really? I couldn't find 63 friends to buy my book? And so that doesn't bother me at all. And my advice to your listening audience is care less about what other people think about you. Care more about what you think about yourself. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be mindful of your reputation, of your character, of your brand. Those things are enormously important. When it comes to failure, my radio program failed. I now have the world's largest weekly leadership podcast because I had so many lessons to learn from and what to do differently and how to pivot. I disrupted myself. So I would say to all your listeners and viewers, have more confidence in yourselves and use your messes and mistakes as a badge of honor. Don't hide from them. Don't be shameful of them. Talk about them, hype them, teach through them, because when you do that, other people will then be more comfortable sharing their mistakes as well.
Yeah. What an environment that would create.
Yes.
Yeah, for innovation and creativity, especially. Yeah. So, Scott, now we'll focus on messes in marketing. And you have this book where you have, I think, 30 chapters, where each chapter talks about a particular mess and a great learning, in context of marketing. So could you elaborate on any 2 or 3 that you think are especially relevant? I'm sure all are relevant.
Sure. So for those of you that are watching, you can see me on camera. This is the green book behind me. It's called Marketing Mess to Brand Success, 30 Challenges to Build Your Organization's Brand and Your Own. And after a decade of being a chief marketing officer in a global public company, I put together all the things that I thought most marketers fail at. And they're challenges, but they're also marketing principles. And to your point, the first one is called It's the Customer Stupid, meaning it's not meant that you're stupid. It means that all of us in organizations tend to fall victim to the internal thinking of the organization, right? The gravitational draw that brings you into the company, our mission, our goals, our values, our profit, our revenue, our products. That's natural. But I think it's the person who owns marketing that has to resist that and be the voice of the customer. What does the customer need? What words is the customer using to describe their problem? There may not be the words that we're using. What is their exact circumstance? It's marketing's job to make sure that you are representing the voice of the current and perhaps prospective customer, to get out of the office and go out and listen to what are their needs, what are they hiring, what are their problems. Again, what are the words that they're using to describe it so that all of your messaging, all of your collateral supports the way the client describes it. Because sometimes, you might describe it leadership, but they describe it productivity. You might call it engagement, but they might call it connection. Those are small words, but there's even small nuances can have a massive impact on your marketing campaign. So that's the first one. The second one is maybe counterintuitive. Challenge 3 is called Stay Close to the cash, because revenue and cash is the lifeblood of every business. And I think too many marketers get caught up into the creativity of their campaigns, right? And measures, likes or follows or forwards or things like that, that cannot be converted into cash. You cannot fund payroll from brand equity. You cannot staple brand equity to the back of your bank deposit slip, right? I mean, you can't fund payroll. It's very important. Brand is, of course, important, but marketers need to make certain that they are close to the cash. What that means is that they are aligned with products and initiatives that are driving revenue, and that the organizational leadership can connect you as a vital part of the cash coming into the organization. Be careful not to get too far away from the revenue, because that's the first job that's cut in a pandemic or a recession, are the jobs that are nice to have as the jobs that are a must have. Something else I would share is challenge 7. This is called bruise hard and heal fast. And this is good, this is life advice, right? If you're in marketing, you're going to have lots of opinions on your campaigns, on your direct mail, on your email campaigns, on your website. Everyone's going to have an opinion. Nobody has an opinion on IT or finance. I mean, when is the last time you made an opinion on how IT should balance the second quarter books, right? Or which server? No one has an opinion on that, but everyone's got an opinion on marketing. Which is why in marketing, you have to be able to take the feedback. I call it bruise hard, but heal fast and bounce back, because there's going to be so many opinions that come. And I think that's good advice in life.
Yeah, super. All the chapters, I would recommend the audiences to, have this, with them and refer to it now and then, because, even this whole, this chapter, marketing is not a department, is such a powerful thing to have that orientation in the mind. And love the third one that you talked about. Now it's like the whole agile marketing is based on this. You go out, be ready to be bruised, and be iterative in your approach. And you can't take it, personally at all. That's lovely. So, and the other book that we are focusing on today, Scott, I was listening to a podcast where you were talking about leadership as, I think you meant like a nurturing role, because you said it could be parenting advice,
Yeah.
And, it's such a lovely thing, because most of the time leadership is looked at as a state of power, like everybody's under you, they will listen to you, they will do what you want them to do.
Right. There are so many similarities between parenting and leadership. Leadership is about achieving results with and through other people. And when you believe that to be true, this is a 3-decade career in the leadership business, and as a leader, lots of mistakes, many successes. But once you understand that fundamentally leadership is about achieving results with and through other people, your whole mindset changes, your paradigms change, you realize that relationships are the most important asset of every organization. It's not your supply chain or your cash flow, although those are important. It's not your brand or your product, although those are important. It's the relationships between the two of us. Can we get along? Can we collaborate? Can we respect each other? Can we forgive each other? Can we pre-forgive each other? Because I'm going to say something to you that's going to offend you, and you're going to have to be able to pre-forgive me. Scott's not a bad person. His intent is to help us learn. I'm open to your feedback. I can apologize to you. These are human characteristics. And leaders, to your point, need to recognize that no longer is leadership like a vertical hierarchy. It's more like this. It's more horizontal. And you really are trying to influence people, not just have a command and control style. Do it because I said so. But instead, here's an idea I have. How are you feeling about this? I have some passion, but I want your interest. Now, not everything is a democracy. Sometimes there is, I'm the CEO, I'm the owner. This is what I want done. And any good colleague should be able to respect that.
Yeah.
So there's times when your leadership style needs to flex. As you mentioned, this book is called Master Mentors, 30 Transformative Insights from Our Greatest Minds. I like the number 30, apparently. I write all my books with 30 chapters. Okay. But like you, I host a podcast, and I've had an amazing privilege to interview some of the greatest minds in the world. And the book really is about just sharing the insights from the podcast with a large audience, with one transformational insight from each of the 30 guests.
Yeah. And you're the first person there, Mr. Nick. I don't know how
Nick
to
Vuijic.
Vuijic. Okay.
Yes.
And that was amazing. I mean, it was like you already put the, you already want that this is going to be very moving, but it was so moving. It is really, really, it can be life-changing, and the incident that you have shared. So would you like to share the transformational insight? And like you've mentioned, a key question after that. I mean, that's also so amazing that you're leaving the audience with now you reflect with this question as a start point.
Well, I thank you for that. So there are 30 people featured. I mentioned the podcast is called On Leadership with Scott Miller, now the world's largest weekly leadership podcast, like yours. It's both on audio and video.
Yes.
Like you, I'm privileged to serve as the host. The first guest in the book was a man named Nick Vuijic. He's from Australia. He lives now in Texas in the United States. And unlike you and I, he was born with no limbs, no arms, and no legs. He has a head and a neck and a torso, and his body ends just beneath his waist. And you have to read the book to learn about Nick's story. But Nick very much lives in the future. He focuses on what he has and not what he doesn't have. And he came to my house one evening here in Utah, in Salt Lake City, for a dinner. I often host dinner parties at my house with different celebrities and guests. And he was a guest, and he told amazing stories about life and really taught this insight of gratitude. I think a lot of us talk about gratitude, but you've not really fully appreciated gratitude until you've been around someone that has no arms and no legs, but yet finds amazing joy in life. And the insight that I share beyond gratitude, what you were alluding to, is Nick reminded me of this concept of there's really three ways we can see the world, see our lives: through the lens of I have to, or I ought to, or I get to. The short story that I share in the book is, I live in Salt Lake City where it's very cold in the winter, lots of snow skiing. And on evening times, I'll need to take the garbage outside. And it'll be like, 0 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what that is in Celsius, but it's cold. And I'll have to take the garbage out, and it's, breaking apart or whatever. And I walk out to the garbage cans in my robe. I'm freezing and slipping. And then I realize, oh, it's Sunday evening. I have to take all the garbage cans and roll them out to the street because the garbage trucks are coming, and I'm slipping and sliding. And then I realize that Nick Vuijic cannot take out the garbage. He has no arms and no legs, and he would love to take out the garbage. So now I think about taking out the garbage as I get to take out the garbage, right? I get to put gas in my car. I get to go grocery shopping. I get to have a high courage conversation with my leader. I get to terminate someone tomorrow, to send them on their way, to help them find a better job. And so I would invite all your listeners and viewers today, pick up a copy of the book. It's called Master Mentors. And this insight is around today. Consider living your life not through the lens of I have to or I ought to, but rather I get to do everything on my schedule today.
Yeah. So it's a privilege. Are you saying it's a privilege that I get to do this? And I think that, and the best way to arrive at gratitude is to go through a deprivation of it. When you're deprived of something, you really realize its value. And I'll come back to gratitude again, because that's just stayed in my mind. That image, because I went and looked up Mr. Nick, and everywhere his image was smiling with his family, laughing, delightful. I mean, you even if you saw the image, it might not register. It might not register that something is amiss. So, because that is his attitude, it's like
Yes.
everything is there, and I am
Yes.
so content, and I'm so happy to be here and everywhere.
Yes.
Amazing.
Right.
Okay. So, yeah, Mr. Seth Godin, because we've been reading his books, and I'm very intrigued, that you met him and you've had dinners with him. So, how is he as a person, and what was the transformational insight there?
Sure. I'm delighted you picked him. So Seth Godin is a very famous American author. He is credited with inventing email marketing. He's written 40 best-selling books. He has the world's largest daily followed blog. He's a friend of mine. Has endorsed my books. And I've learned a lot from Seth. In fact, when people ask me who was my biggest mentor, it probably is Seth. Seth is very black and white, meaning he sees things as sort of yes or no. He calls himself an iconoclast, right? He kind of is an oppositional figure, not on everything, but the biggest insight I've taken from Seth, which is many. I mean, I write about him in Marketing Mess. I write about him in Management Mess. I write about him in Master Mentors. He's had a profound impact. In Master Mentors, the insight that I share from Seth is this concept called being reckless versus being fearless. I'll repeat that, is understanding what it means to be reckless versus fearless. And for me, this was very profound, because in much of my life, I thought I was being fearless, but I was really being reckless. I was the person that, said what was on my mind, or, decided to right every wrong, or challenge every injustice, or share my opinion on every single thing. And once my CEO took me aside after a meeting, I was the CMO and he was the CEO of a very large company. And he said to me, "Scott, you make too many declarative statements." And that was it. And he left the room and went to the restroom. And that was it. And when I realized, after I bruised hard and healed fast, I thought, he's right. I at this point in my career, I had a bit of confidence and a bit of swagger. Some might even call it arrogance. And I wasn't deliberate enough. I didn't ask enough questions. I always weighed in on my opinion very dogmatically and very forcefully, as if my opinion was always the truth. We know that's absurd, right? There are facts, and then there are your feelings, your opinions, and your emotions. And most arrogant people disguise their opinions as facts. That's not helpful in a business. And so Seth taught me that many times when I thought I was being fearless, I was being reckless with my brand, my reputation. Sometimes other people's brands, their feelings, their reputations. So the transformational insight is to really be clear on, when are you being fearless and when are you perhaps being reckless? And maybe on occasion hold back and make sure, if you are being fearless, it doesn't negatively impact someone else, right?
Overall, you had mentioned something about that, that people are lured into leadership.
Yes.
Yeah. So every high performer thinks that that's the next,
Yes.
step in the ladder. But it requires, it's very hard, but leadership is very hard, because the way you've described it, I mean, you have 3 kids. So we know how tough parenting can be. It's total focus on the other. Of course, it's a huge growth. I mean, you cannot achieve it otherwise. That kind of a mindset and that kind of thinking, the kids make sure it happens.
Not everyone should be a leader of people. And this is an unpopular position in some organizations or in the leadership industry. I don't think everyone should be a commercial airline pilot. I don't think everyone should be an anesthesiologist. I don't think everyone should be a leader of people. And I think too often, most often inside organizations, we promote the top individual producer, the top salesperson to be the sales leader, the top digital designer to be the leader of the creative division. Rarely is it the skills that makes you a great individual producer translate into making you a great leader of people. So oftentimes in organizations, we promote the person who was the best at the job function, but that rarely sets them up for success. Because you are the best salesperson does not qualify you to be the leader of 12 salespeople for lots of reasons. If you are a great salesperson, you probably are highly competitive. You have your own style and personality. You like the limelight. You want to win. Those are great competencies for a salesperson. Those are horrible competencies for a sales leader. And so my advice would be to tell organizational leaders, be very thoughtful about who you bring up into leadership. Don't lure people up because it's the only way to get promoted, or it's the only way to have a bigger title or earn more compensation. Because what happens is when you promote individual producers to be sales leaders, or the top of nursing, or the leadership of, the creative department, if it's the wrong job for them and they fail, rarely does someone step back into their previous role. They're too embarrassed. What do? They leave the company. And now you've lost your top individual producer and you've lost your leadership pipeline. So my call to action to all organizations is to really define clearly what are the competencies you need in leaders of people, and have conversations with people to decide, is this the right role for you? It may not be. No shame. Not everyone should be a commercial airline pilot, including me, and not everyone should be a leader of people as well.
Yeah, awesome. Beautifully said. And that's a very rare perspective to hear, Scott.
Not very popular sometimes, but I believe it to be true. I'll tell you, I've been a leader of people for 25 years. I'm not sure I should have been a leader of people. I'm loud, I'm charismatic, I have a big personality, I have an ego, I like to do things often my way, I'm not very patient. Now, I think I'm ethical and I'm becoming more patient. I'm knowing when now to, step back and let others thrive. But it took me, decades to learn that. I'm comfortable sharing that. Leadership has not been easy for me. I'm not sure it's my natural skill set. Sometimes if, this isn't a natural skill for you, it may not be the effort, may not be worth the effort to put into it. For some people, having high courage conversations, giving people feedback on their blind spot, holding them accountable for clear outcomes, this is so painful and so difficult, it may not be worth the effort. And that's okay. Every organization needs genius individual contributors. We don't need everyone to pay the price to be a leader. That's why I think it's important to be really thoughtful. Is becoming a leader of people the right journey for you? And is the effort you will need to put into that growth worth it when you could be doing things that perhaps bring you better joy and bring better contribution to both you and to your career and to your employer? Life is too short to force yourself into something because an organization says it's the only way to get promoted. Wrong employer for you.
Right. They haven't done their research and they haven't understood well before trying to lure you. Okay. Scott, you've met these wonderful people with different worldviews, perhaps, and such distinct personalities and very different things that they are doing. Like one is doing wrestling and one is an author, So did you see any common characteristics or perspectives, any thread that, is common and you can say all of them had this?
There's two things they have in common. One is a remarkable work ethic. These people work hard. They work harder than most, and they don't rest on their laurels. They launch a best-selling book, they write another one and launch that one. They work really hard. They have life balance. They're not workaholics. They have a good life balance, but generally they just believe in the old-fashioned value of hard work. There's no such thing as overnight success. There is overnight fame, and usually it's ill-gotten and fleeting quite fast. But there is no such thing as overnight success. And these people realize that they had to work 10, 20, 30 years, often behind the scenes, with lots of failures and lots of mistakes that no one saw. You only see how big their blog is now. You didn't see how their first magazine column got cut. You see their TV program now. You don't see the 800 rehearsals they went through that they didn't get the part, right? Or the tryouts. So don't be blinded by people's success and fame by thinking that was overnight. It usually took them decades of failures, mistakes, and hard work to get there.
Hmm.
The second is they all have an abundance mentality. They have an abundance mindset. There's not a scarce bone. They believe fundamentally that their calling is to help other people, to share information and not hoard. They're very generous people with their time and their energy and their talent. They genuinely want to be abundant with their lessons, their failures, their successes. And I think that's a commonality that all of them have, is they work very hard and they don't have a scarcity mindset. They have an abundance mindset in everything they do.
Wow, lovely.
It's true.
Okay, I wanted to go back to the marketing messes. Somehow I felt that, we could pick one or two more. Would that be okay?
Sure. Sure.
Edit it and put it there. When you say marketing is not a department, would you
Yes.
like to elaborate on that? And what
Sure.
is the mess that can happen and what is the success that can happen?
Sure. Yeah. An insightful challenge to illuminate. My experience has been in many organizations that marketing is a function like sales or finance or IT. Not everybody is in the IT division. Not everybody is in the finance division. Not everybody is in the sales division. But everybody should find themselves in the marketing division. Now, I guess technically everybody is in sales, right? And everybody needs to be concerned about finances and cost containment and cutting cash. But marketing is different because everybody is a representative of your brand. Every email, every voicemail, every client meeting, every time you're out on a Friday evening with your pals, wearing your company t-shirt with your logo, you are a representative. You're an ambassador of your organization's brand. So I think it's vital that the marketing division invite people in to remind people that every client meeting, every interaction is a chance for us to build a positive impression or reinforce a negative one. And all of us are ambassadors of this organization, including when you're not working here. And we should reinforce the fact that with social media, everything is a moment that can be a brand building or a brand destroying moment. You could be in a car accident and, step out and have road rage, and all that someone captures is an Instagram picture of you with your company's logo. And now you have shed a poor light on your organization. And it may sound outrageous or fantastical, but it happens every day. And so marketing isn't just a division of 8 or 10 or 12 people or one person. Everyone needs to understand what is their contribution to being a brand ambassador in terms of how they respond to customers, how they write their emails, how their emails are not with different kinds of logos, but what are the brand standards? What is the latitude to change things? If you're working out in the field, do you have permission to create your own collateral and create your own Instagram post, or should you have them on brand with your company? And for that matter, social media, right? Is everything I post on my social media is ultimately a reflection of our organization, whether I like it or not. And so the times have changed. And I think it's marketing's responsibility to not shame people, but to bring them in and just to remind them of how important it is that everybody be cautious and careful in your role as an ambassador for this organization in everything you do on Saturday mornings as well as on Tuesday mornings. Bring it on. I'm ready.
Mother's best advice.
Don't gossip.
Oh, favorite personal possession.
A ring that my great-grandfather bequeathed to me.
Lovely. Alternate profession could have been?
A journalist.
Really? Okay. What would you do on Mars for fun?
Bounce around like a trampoline, probably. I think, does Mars have weightlessness? So that probably would get old pretty quickly, but I don't want the rapid fire.
that image is growing on my Okay. One thing you love about your son. I know you have three. So how do we answer
My oldest son is 11. His name is Thatcher. He's named after Margaret Thatcher. I
Okay.
love how tender he is. He cares about other people. He's very empathetic to other people.
Your most often used phrase, according to your wife.
Oh, probably that's profound. I use the word profound a lot.
Okay. Nice. Which animal will you like to be if given a choice?
Oh, probably a tiger or a lion, because they're the top of the food chain on Earth.
Okay. One thing no one knows about you.
I'm a stutterer. I have a very pronounced stutter. And I've had braces 3 times. I'm in Invisalign, speech therapy. I have a speech coach. I have a debilitating stutter, and I've spent most of my life overcoming it.
Wow. No one can make out. Isn't
Well,
it?
I've worked very hard, and not everyone can overcome their stutters. Some stutters are neurological or physiological. I'm mindful of the rapid fire, but I've worked very hard to uncover a very pronounced stutter that I have, a speech impediment.
Okay. Lovely. A book you'd like to gift to all your friends.
Well, Master Mentors, of course. 30 transformative insights from our greatest minds.
I should have said that.
I know. I think the best leadership book ever written is a book called Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. And it's an amazing book around how most of us are accidentally diminishing others, but instead we should be multiplying others. It's a great book. Buy the book Multipliers.
Superb. Okay. What's next, Scott?
I'm writing Master Mentors Volume 2 with 30 new guests and 30 new insights. I'm writing the next book in the Mess to Success series called Job Mess to Career Success. And then after that is Communication Mess to Influence Success.
Wow. Super.
Oh, the gun is going down.
You did
the
so
rapid
well.
fire. I won.
Superb.
Well, I don't have many talents, but I do have a hobby.
Yes.
And I have something I'm passionate about. So almost every day since college, I always wear shirts with cufflinks. I wear French cuffs. I'm known to mow the grass in French cuffs, but it's kind of my brand. And I have hundreds of shirts that I make, and they all have my initials on them here. But I have a very large cufflink collection. In fact, you can see these cufflinks.
Oh my God, it says marketing mess.
Yeah,
there's marketing mess written on it.
That's right. And so it's actually the cover of the book. And I have a very large cufflink connection. You can see behind me lots of cufflinks. And I have a habit every day of my boys get to pick out my cufflinks. So we do a little bit of a habit, and we rotate through the boys, and they get to pick out the cufflinks that Dad is going to wear for today. So for me, it's kind of like a brand. It's a hobby. It's a collection. But it also involves my sons in it, where they can be involved in, seeing Dad get dressed in the morning and what it means to get dressed as a gentleman, right, professionally. And it's important how you show up and how you groom yourself. And they also have French cuff shirts where they get to pick their cufflinks out, and not many of them. But I'm trying to build gentlemen, but also do it in a way that builds connection and a relationship with them. And someday they will inherit my cufflink connection.
Could you please show your collection again, the one that you had right now?
Oh, so this is just one of the many boxes of cufflinks. You can see there are Santa hats, there's sunglasses, there's tanks, there's tacos, paper clips, there's Starbucks coffee cups, there's a hamburger, my initials up here.
Beautiful, such an original hobby.
This is the first person that's actually shared that with you.
but
I was so scared. I was so scared of singing. I don't have any musical talent, and I can dance like every other white American man, which means I can't, right? So.
Now, could I request you to share with our audiences in India, your online addresses?
Sure.
Your podcast, and any other online details that you'd like to share?
Sure. So I have a website. It's my name, scottjeffreymiller.com. You can Google that, and all of my books are there. I write a column for Inc. magazine every week. It's also there. All of the podcast episodes. You can also find me on every major social media platform: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. Google me, and I'm going to show up there. All of that. I'm starting to share leadership insights on TikTok right now. So it's where the next generation is, right? And I'm on Clubhouse as well. So it's hard not to find me right now. And all of my books are available on all book retailers and Amazon.com as well. You can go to Amazon and pick up a copy of Master Mentors or Marketing Mess, or I wrote a book called Everyone Deserves a Great Manager with two of my associates. It was a Wall Street Journal bestseller. Oh my gosh, this has been such a great podcast. You are a thoughtful and deliberate host. I've enjoyed every moment of this. This is why I came onto this podcast, because it came up on my radar as one of the growing and influential podcasts out there. So that's why I reached out to you. So delighted that everyone is here. Make sure you subscribe. Great episodes. I'm sure there are better episodes than perhaps the one that I joined, but what an honor it's been to be on today. Thank you for the platform, the spotlight, and the privilege. You're a great interviewer.